Before the pyramids of Egypt, before the grand empires of Babylon or Rome, humanity made its first great leap into civilization in a land cradled between two mighty rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This region, known as Mesopotamia, witnessed the birth of Sumer, the very first known civilization to humankind. The Sumerians were pioneers, transforming scattered human ingenuity into enduring structures and systems. They built cities, not just simple villages, complete with walls, temples, priests, scribes, and bustling markets. Their unique language, an isolate unlike any other, was recorded using cuneiform, tiny, wedge-shaped impressions in clay. In doing so, they not only wrote history, but became an indelible part of it, laying the groundwork for all that would follow. They spoke of a mythical past, where gods ruled over men, believing their civilization was a divine gift, delivered from the heavens by beings called the Inanna, who established order from chaos. Inheritors and innovators. The rise of city-states. The Sumerians were not just inventors. They were inheritors of a rapidly changing world, settling in southern Mesopotamia before 4000 BCE, with their true rise beginning around 3100 BCE. A stable climate allowed agriculture to flourish, leading to food surpluses and increased societal complexity. To meet the growing need for organization, knowledge storage, and communication, the Sumerians developed city-states, each ruled by a local king or high priest. Cities like Uruk, Lagash, Eridu, and Nippur emerged, each possessing its own patron deity, temple, and unique myths, yet connected by trade, language, and a shared cosmic understanding. Their temples were not mere places of worship, but massive terraced ziggurats reaching for the heavens, believed to be the homes of the gods on earth and reflections of cosmic order. Eridu, considered the very first city founded by the gods, was the seat of Enki, the god of wisdom, water, and creation, and the initial destination of kingship, descended from heaven. Mastery and mathematics. Everyday ingenuity. The Sumerians, despite their simple origins, possessed extraordinary dreams and the ingenuity to realize them. They mastered complex irrigation systems, channeling the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to feed their fertile fields, a crucial innovation in their arid land. The invention of the wheel revolutionized not only transport but also pottery, fundamentally changing how goods were produced and stored. Their intellectual prowess extended to astronomy and mathematics, as they developed a lunar calendar based on precise celestial observations and created a complex sexagesimal, base 60, numerical system. This advanced understanding of the cosmos, which still confounds modern scholars due to its precision, was intricately layered with ritual and order, reflecting their belief that every act held deep meaning. Their world was far from primitive. It was a sophisticated tapestry of practical innovation interwoven with profound spiritual belief, cosmology, and divine harmony. The Sumerian worldview perceived the universe as a grand, ordered system, a dome with the earth beneath, the heavens above, and the netherworld below. They believed that every act, from harvesting grain to tracking stars, was guided by divine forces, maintaining a delicate balance between chaos and order. This harmony was essential and had to be preserved through ritual, sacrifice, and knowledge. They sought to live in accordance with divine will, understanding that their prosperity depended on it. The construction of their massive ziggurats, with their rising steps, represented the cosmic mountain, the axis connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld. These structures were not merely places of worship, but symbols of the universe in miniature, embodying the cosmic order they strived to reflect in their daily lives. Uruk, the epicenter of civilization. Among all the Sumerian cities, Uruk held unparalleled power and mystique, becoming the epicenter of early civilization. Its name, echoed in the ancient tongue as Unuk, would eventually inspire the name of the region, Iraq. Uruk was immense for its time, protected by massive walls and dominated by two great temple districts, where the fate of humanity was believed to be recorded and guided. It was the city of Inanna, goddess of love, war, fertility, and transformation, whose temple, the Inanna, served as both a spiritual and bureaucratic hub. Here, the earliest evidence of writing was discovered on clay tablets, initially used for counting grain and recording transactions, but evolving over time into a powerful system of language that transformed symbols into words. and words into memory. This invention was born out of necessity as Uruk's economy grew more complex, with trade routes stretching to distant lands for copper, timber, and lapis lazuli. Gilgamesh and celestial omens. It was in Uruk that the Epic of Gilgamesh, though fully written down centuries later, found its deep Sumerian roots. Gilgamesh, the legendary king, ruled Uruk for 126 years, a half-god, half-man who built the city's walls, sought immortality, and defied the gods. His tale, rich in symbolism, explores the tension between civilization and the wild, the divine and the mortal, knowing and unknowing, serving as a mirror into the Sumerian soul. Through Gilgamesh's journey, they expressed their fears, hopes, reverence for the gods, and deep understanding of life's impermanence. In Uruk's temples, priests meticulously observed the heavens, tracking stars and planets not as astronomers, but as seekers of omens and signs, believing the gods communicated through celestial movements. Each star was a divine scribe, each eclipse a warning, and each phase of the moon a whisper from beyond. This fusion of spiritual belief with practical observation laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of time, dividing the day and night into precise units: kingship, divine authority, and sacred duty. According to Sumerian belief, human kingship was a divine institution, not created by man, but bestowed from the heavens. Rulers were seen as chosen vessels of divine authority, acting as intermediaries between the gods and the people. The earliest kings were often priest kings, performing rituals, consulting omens, and maintaining temple estates, their power rooted in their sacred connection to the divine. They were tasked with upholding Me, a sacred set of rules and attributes governing all aspects of life, believed to be gifted by the gods. The Sumerian king list, a semi-mythical record, chronicles rulers whose impossibly long reigns symbolized kingship's cosmic weight. This list also reveals the unique concept that kingship was transferred by the gods from one city to another, reflecting the political reality of shifting dominance among independent city-states. Despite frequent wars over land and resources, there was an underlying belief that divine order must eventually return, even in conquest. Kings bore titles like Lugal, great man, and Ensi, governor or high priest, signifying both earthly power and divine responsibility. Law and justice, a sacred principle. In Sumerian society, the concept of law was inseparable from the will of the gods. Justice was not a human construct, but a sacred principle ensuring balance between heaven and earth. When a king issued a decree, it was believed he was merely echoing the divine order, giving the law an almost spiritual authority. The earliest legal codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu around 2100 BCE, emerged from practical concerns like resolving disputes and protecting property, yet were deeply rooted in cosmic balance. These laws followed a clear if-then pattern, addressing matters like theft, marriage, and injury, emphasizing fairness and reparation. While punishments could be harsh and not always equal for all social classes, the underlying idea was that a stable society required boundaries respected by everyone. Judges, witnesses, and oaths played crucial roles in trials, with false oaths considered sacrilege. The Sumerians also pioneered legal documentation, using cylinder seals to authenticate contracts for marriages, loans, and land sales, creating a system of trust and protection in an unpredictable world. Daily life, education, and community life in Sumerian cities was structured, orderly, and deeply intertwined with the divine, where every activity, from plowing fields to baking bread, was part of a larger cosmic dance. Homes, built from sun-dried mud bricks, were typically simple rectangles with flat roofs, often clustered around courtyards that served as the heart of the household for cooking, weaving, and socializing. Families were central, often extended to include grandparents and relatives, with marriage being a contract rather than a romantic union. Women held essential roles, managing households, overseeing servants, and sometimes participating in trade or serving as priestesses. Children learned by observing and mimicking their parents, but for a select few destined to become scribes, education was formal and rigorous. They attended the aduba, or tablet house, where they learned cuneiform, memorized vast lists, and practiced arithmetic and law, becoming the esteemed keepers of knowledge for temples, palaces, and merchants. Bustling markets and religious practices. Sumerian markets bustled with life, exchanging barley, dates, fish, and wool, with artisans selling pottery, metal tools, and jewelry. Without coinage, everything was bartered or weighed in silver, with scribes meticulously recording every transaction on clay tablets. Towering ziggurats dominated the skyline, serving as architectural marvels and spiritual axes, believed to be the bridge between heaven and earth and the dwelling place of the gods. High priests alone could enter the inner sanctum to care for the divine statue, believed to be the god's actual dwelling. Festivals, marking the turning of the seasons, were moments of communal worship, music, and joy, reenacting myths and renewing the bonds between heaven and earth. Religion was woven into every part of daily life, with amulets for protection, offerings at family altars, and whispered prayers before sleep. Divination, through omens like bird flight or oil patterns, was a serious art practiced by skilled specialists who interpreted the language of the gods. Trade networks and material culture. Sumer was not an isolated civilization, but the beating heart of an ever-expanding network of trade, a crossroads of goods, ideas, and culture. Lacking natural resources like precious metals, timber, or stone, the Sumerians looked outward, crafting trade routes across deserts, rivers, and seas. Boats traversed the Tigris and Euphrates towards the Persian Gulf, leading to voyages to distant lands like Dilmun, Magan, and Meluha. These journeys brought in copper, timber, gold, and other exotic goods, in exchange for Sumerian wool, textiles, barley, and their knowledge of writing and measurement. Trade was a sacred activity, often overseen by temple officials, with caravans dispatched under carefully sealed contracts and prayers for safe passage. The bustling markets of cities like Ur and Uruk were where goods were exchanged through weighed silver, and merchants became cultural ambassadors, spreading not only physical goods, but also stories, technologies, and beliefs. Sumerian cities were structured for commerce, with canals linking fields to storehouses and docks, and granaries rising beside workshops. Temples also functioned as powerful economic engines, managing vast land holdings, employing laborers, and overseeing the crafting of ritual objects. Blurring the line between religious duty and economic necessity, the city of Ur, with its prominent harbor, became a major trade hub, its wealth evident in the stunning archaeological finds from its royal cemetery. Astronomy, mathematics, and spiritual wisdom. As night fell, Sumerian priests and priestesses climbed high platforms not just to pray, but to observe. For the sky was a divine map, a clock, and a voice alive with meaning. They were among the first to systematically map the stars, tracking the paths of the moon and planets, and recording their observations on clay tablets, noting eclipses, solstices, and conjunctions. From these patterns, they developed a lunar calendar, aligning months with moon phases and seasons with agricultural rhythms, viewing time as sacred and a living measure of divine will. They divided the day and night into equal parts, eventually developing the base 60 sexagesimal system that still influences our modern timekeeping. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. This system, born from practical and sacred calculations, allowed for precise measurement in time, geometry, and astronomy. Their understanding of numbers was infused with symbolism, believing certain numbers like 7, 12, and 60 carried divine properties. By observing the stars, Sumerians believed they could foresee the future, with priests acting as mediators between heaven and earth, interpreting the will of the gods written in constellations. Their advancements in mathematics blossomed from this sacred inquiry, developing multiplication tables, geometric calculations, and algorithms for dividing fields, demonstrating both practical problem-solving and abstract reasoning. This blend of science and spirituality defined their approach, where measuring stars was hearing gods, and dividing land was honoring the earth. Decline and enduring legacy. Even the greatest civilizations must eventually yield to time, and after more than 1,000 years of brilliance, Sumer slowly faded into history. Its cities grew quieter, its language softened into liturgy, and its gods took on new names, but it did not vanish all at once. Its end was a long, gentle twilight. The causes were numerous: political fragmentation, repeated invasions from peoples like the Amorites and Elamites, and climate change with shifting river courses and droughts that reduced agricultural productivity. By the early 2nd millennium BCE, Akkadian became the dominant spoken language, with Sumerian preserved mainly in religious and scholarly texts, treated as the language of the gods. New powers like the Amorites in Babylon and the Assyrians in Ashur emerged, borrowing much from Sumer's writing, myths, laws, and even deities, giving them new forms and voices. The continuity is striking. The Epic of Gilgamesh and the Flood story, though famously recorded in Akkadian, have deep Sumerian roots. Sumerian gods evolved and reappeared under new names, and their rituals bore familiar shapes, passing the torch of civilization onward. Echoes through time. Sumer's influence on later civilizations. Like a river feeding distant lands, the ideas and institutions born in Sumer flowed onward, shaping the great civilizations that followed, including Babylon, Assyria, Persia, and even Greece. Nowhere is this continuity more evident than in Babylon, which adopted and adapted nearly every aspect of Sumerian culture. The cuneiform script continued. Sumerian myths were rewritten, and their gods were honored with new names, their hymns still sung in temple rituals. Babylonian law, most famously the Code of Hammurabi, built directly upon Sumerian foundations like the Code of Ur-Nammu, echoing its format, moral emphasis, and societal roles. Assyria, to the north, also inherited Sumerian religious and administrative structures, with their kings styling themselves as guardians of divine order, drawing legitimacy from the same ideals first proclaimed in Eridu and Ur. Even under later Persian and Hellenistic rule, echoes remained in city layouts, the use of archives, astrology, and the sacred role of kingship. The Sumerian way of seeing the world, ordered, cyclical, and infused with meaning, remained a deep current beneath the surface. Concepts of divine justice, heavenly order, the underworld, and the moral responsibility of rulers all filtered into later religious systems. Rediscovery and immortality, the first chapter of humanity. Even the very structure of time itself, our 60-minute hours and use of the number 12 to divide days and years, stems directly from the Sumerian base, 60 numerical system. Culturally, Sumer gave the world its first schools, libraries, and recorded stories and laws, originating the concept of organized education and the preservation of literature. The rediscovery of Sumer in the 19th and 20th centuries through archaeology and the patient decoding of cuneiform revealed not just a forgotten history, but the very roots of civilization. Scholars, brushing sand from broken tablets, found the voices of the first cities, reminding the world that long before Greece, Rome, or the pyramids, people in Sumer looked at the stars, asked why, and wrote the answer in clay. The Sumerians are remembered not because they lasted eternally, but because they began. They turned the first page of humanity's long, unfolding story. Their legacy is not only found in their monumental achievements, but in their enduring humanity. Their hymns and laments revealing joy, sorrow, doubt, and hope. Though their cities are gone and their temples silent, their voices still echo in the things we build, the words we write, and the way we wonder about the stars and the meaning of it all.